Morning, all. All right, news of the day video for all you fine people on the internet for your Thursday, November the 7th. We'll start at the top of the board with the Flyers. Anthony Richard is going to be in the lineup tonight. Michkov is a healthy scratch. Apparently, Danny Briere knew before the season started at some point in time Michkov was likely going to be a healthy scratch. This is not a sign of some kind of tension between Tortorella and the rookie, but I am sure that there's going to be a lot of reactions to this. And it's part of the process. Look at last year with the Ducks with Leo Carlsson. They had load management. They would have him in some games and out for others. I kind of see it as the same thing here with Michkov. The more concerning thing, if you're a Flyers fan and looking for victories, is it looks like Kolosov was hurt in a pregame practice. And according to Elliot Friedman, because flying somebody in could be a pain in time, the emergency backup goaltender, or E-Bug as they're better known, could be dressed tonight, and it looks like Fedotov will be the starter for the Philadelphia Flyers. So with last night's game and the goal scored by Alex Ovechkin, he now sits 34 goals away from breaking Wayne Gretzky's goal mark. I do think he's going to get it done, and I get the feeling it very well could be this year. Keeping in mind that goal scorers could be very streaky, so there could be some long streaks there where maybe he doesn't get the goals, maybe he doesn't break the record, but he's only 34 away. It's going to happen, and it's been interesting watching him this season. He looks like the old Ovechkin. Keep in mind that last year he had a down season, but he's done that before. Earlier in his career, he did have a season where he had like 32 goals, and there was a lot of discussion about his career and where he was headed, and then he bounced right back. So maybe we're looking at that again, just at a much older age. Andrew Peeke. So he was injured in the game against Toronto. He took that hit from Pacioretty, and he's dealing with an upper body injury as a result. He is seen as week to week, and of course, my rule for week to week is at least 2 weeks, because otherwise they just say he's out for a week. So at least 2 weeks for Peeke. Wish that didn't rhyme, so we'll just go ahead and move on. But yeah, hopefully he's not out for that long. Boston's just going to have to rely on some defensive depth in the meantime. They should be okay. The PWHL released their 6 jersey designs today. I think they did pretty well. I think the Boston Fleet jersey's absolutely gorgeous. The Montreal Victoire jersey is excellent. I actually think I might like the white one better than the maroon/red one, but I mean they're both very nice. And Boston, very nice, and echoes of the Hartford Whalers, but still enough changes and enough unique aspects to it that it is its own entity, and I think it's kind of a fun one. Now, the B ones to me, Minnesota Frost, I love the colors. The logo is a little bit simplistic, and Toronto, I like the colors. The logo, it's okay. And then not on the board are the Sirens and the Charge. The Sirens logo to me just looks very roller hockey, for lack of a better term, and the Charge, to me, their logo kind of looks like a Wildcats logo that you might see on an American university. So you guys can let me know what you guys thought of the jerseys. I think really Boston and Montreal have the best ones. Minnesota and Toronto, I have in second place, and then the other two are still there. But remember, that's going to be original 6. So these are the original 6 for the PWHL, and so eventually these jerseys are seen as classics, right? Tonight, the New York Islanders continue to be shorthanded on the blue line. Mike Riley, still dealing with a concussion, will not be in the lineup. Romanov, dealing with an upper body injury. He's not going to play against the Sens. So, yeah, the New York Islanders will continue to roll with essentially 4 defensemen and 2 guys getting some minutes, but that top 4 are going to be leaned on heavily while there's so many players that are out of the lineup. And tonight, the Tampa Bay Lightning will be without Braden Point against the Flyers. Dealing with a lower body injury. They're not saying a whole lot else other than, he doesn't play tonight. And it definitely sounds like it's day-to-day, so maybe he's ready to go for the next one. We shall see. Anthony Mantha for the Flames is seen as questionable going into tonight's game against the Boston Bruins. It's saying he's still being evaluated. So he could play tonight, or he could be out for a week. And that's the wonderful thing about NHL injuries. And this is something that drives the companies that run the gambling apps insane. And people who gamble drives them insane too, because you want to know who the lineups are going to be. You want to know how long somebody's going to be out. And the NHL's answer is as vague and obscure as possible. We have never seen that movement, though. It's been predicted for years that eventually the NHL would have to be more transparent about injuries because of the relationship they have with gambling sites. Hasn't happened as of yet. Um, I haven't even heard anything about gambling sites leaning on the NHL to start releasing more information. So at this point, this is what we get. He's being evaluated, questionable for tonight. Who knows? Maybe he's out for a month. Artem Zub returns tonight for the Ottawa Senators against the Islanders. And I'm guessing because I'm just seeing Zub returning that Pinto isn't. Again, same thing, right? The question of who's in, who's out, all that great stuff. But either way, Zub returns to the ice for Ottawa against the Islanders. Ottawa needs this win tonight. They really do. After that humiliating loss against Buffalo, they really need to bounce back and get the win tonight. So we'll see if that does take place. Zub, really good defenseman for the Ottawa Senators. They definitely miss him when he's out. Getting him back will help. Barry Trotz. So I apologize for missing this one yesterday, but I'll cover this today. Barry Trotz basically hinting that the poor play of the Nashville Predators, if that continues, he could look at instituting his rebuilding plan. Now, after he said this on the radio, they lose last night. So it's not getting better. It's not, I don't know if it's getting worse, but it's definitely not getting better for Nashville at this point. The interesting part is when Barry Trotz took over, the expectation was a rebuild. And initially when he took over, he did talk about the rebuilding process. Then Nashville overachieved. They made the playoffs, and they looked like they were going to be pretty good. You had Saros looking like a very solid top 10 goaltender in the NHL. Yossi still doing his thing on the blue line, and a pretty solid forward group that needed a little more punch. So he adds Stamkos and Marchessault, two veterans who were coming off 40-goal seasons, and he adds, and I mean Hall of Famer in Stamkos, right? Or maybe arguably with Marchessault as well, and he adds Shea on the blue line. So, going into this season, the expectations are high, but it is interesting because it's not that long ago we were talking about Nashville needing a rebuild. So I think there's definitely a conversation to be had. The problem for Barry Trotz is this. So he can come out, he can go on a radio station, and he can say, well, we're going to do I may have to do a rebuild if things don't turn around. But he's got a lot now of these high-priced contracts on veteran players who are underperforming. So this is where it gets difficult because it is not that easy to move those contracts at this point in time. My guess is the earliest point where teams might look at some of those contracts might be next summer when the salary cap goes up. And maybe some of those contracts are a little more palatable. Maybe a team will have a ton of cap space and want to bring in one of those veterans. But it does make it difficult because it was only, a month ago that the season started and the expectations were pretty high with Nashville. And now those expectations seemingly have dropped and we'll see if they do get it figured out or not. Last night against Washington, I thought they played well. They just didn't get a point out of that game. I thought they played well. Washington gets another victory and Nashville finds a way to lose that game. And that's been the storyline throughout this season for the most part. So let me know your thoughts. Do you think Nashville needs a rebuild? Because again, when the word rebuild comes out, it's not retool, it was rebuild that he said. That's the long-term, this can take a while scenario, whereas a retool can be kind of quick. But it doesn't sound like that would be the route that they'd go. But let me know your thoughts in the comment section below as always. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe in the event you may not have done so already. Thank you guys so much for all your support. Like always, I will talk to you again soon.